Okay. So you can see there the cover page of our latest State of the DRE Sector report, which was released just a couple of months ago. Uh, these reports are basically snapshots of the current status of the sector. Every year we try to publish these with a special focus on new developments and trends. So as you can see, the focus for this report was how Indian DRE sector is now getting to a stage where many companies are entering the markets in other parts of the world, particularly in Africa. The knowledge partner for this report was WEFT Research LLP, and it had contributions from ARE, CLASP, Clean, Gogla, MNRE, WEFT, and also within these articles there are some case studies mapped for a few Clean members. You can see on the slide how you can access the report for downloading. It is available on the Clean website. So this webinar is primarily to sort of give you an insight into what is there in the DRE sector report, and therefore we have a few contributors to the report who will be talking about what they see as the current state of the DRE sector. So that is the focus of this webinar. Clean has started doing these webinars every month, and each month we'll try to pick up a new topic related to the decentralized renewable energy sector. So anybody from the audience, if you would like us to talk about a specific topic or specific area within the DRE framework, please let us know, and we'll see how we can organize a webinar on that topic. But I welcome everyone and the speakers in this webinar, and over to Pallavi for introducing today's speakers, and then we'll move forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I want to invite Ms. Akanksha Chaurey. She's from WEFT LLP and an author of one of the chapters from SOS report, along with her co-author, Mr. Yusuf. Ahmed, right? Sorry, I got just confused about his name. But unfortunately, he's not here today in the meeting. But I want to invite Ms. Akanksha to just go with her presentation and details about the chapter. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Pallavi, and good afternoon to all the participants. I would be making a brief presentation about the article, which is based on the study that was done on behalf of Gogla. Gogla, as you know, is an association of basically DRE industry people, and a small association focusing mainly on lighting. It has its genesis in Lighting Africa in Africa. So this article was written by me and my colleague Tausif Ahmed, and it was reviewed and approved by the Gogla's representative, Mr. Praveen Kumar. I will be sharing my screen, and then we can have a discussion. Let me share my screen. So the title of this article is Transformational Role of DRE Appliances in Weak Grid Areas. So as we go along, I will explain the weak grid market, what is the relevance, what are the opportunities, etc. And as I've already said, this is based on Gogla's work internationally and lessons learned from India. So let me say, what is a weak grid market? So we know very well that India is completely 100% electrified, in the sense that we are fortunate that we have access to grid infrastructure, grid network almost in every corner of the country. And with electricity supply also on an average 20 hours, 21 hours in a 24-hour cycle. But we also know that now that our aspirations are to have 24/7 good quality electricity, the supply falls short of our expectations of 24/7 supply, and most and quite a few parts of the country, the supply is not only less than sometimes even 12 hours, 13 hours, but also the quality, voltage, and the natural disasters such as some storms or some other problem, and the grid snaps, and then the electricity is not there. Now, what has happened? Because, as I said, our aspirations have gone up, because we also have access to modern technologies, and because we also know how to use electricity to the best of our advantage, both in the household requirement as well as for income generation, community, anything. We are tempted to have the backup solutions, whether it's diesel generators or battery inverters or solar systems or anything. So therefore, this market, which is called a weak grid market, previously we used to have only on-grid market and off-grid market. Now the weak grid market has become very, very strong word, and which basically means that you are wanting to have your grid connected, you are wanting to have 24/7. That's because of the falling short of electricity supply, you keep having backups. Now what has happened? The weak grid market is fragmented. It's a big market, but weak grid market is fragmented. It is the use of solar home systems, use of solar rooftops, distributed inverter battery, diesel gensets, efficient appliances. They all become component of weak grid market. Now, what happens? Just one second. Let me change my view so that I'm able to see my presentation, the entire slide properly. Yeah. So because of this, weak grid market is so fragmented, it's compromised. There's a compromise on the optimization, on safety and quality, cost benefits. To give you a specific example, I mean, if you have been working in this DRE sector and particularly focusing on how solar market has evolved in India, you would notice that the rural consumers typically would first invest in solar home system, small solar home systems, 50 watt, 60 watt, 2 lights. Then they will realize that, this is not sufficient. So then they will have maybe another battery inverter set, or maybe they will have a hybrid LED light or something. Now, each of these appliances, it adds to the redundancy in the system. And so therefore, there's a compromise on optimization. Also on safety, because of, as I'll move on, I'll talk about the standards, lack of standards, standardization, etc. As a result of which, these appliances also pose hazards, personal hazards, as well as hazards to the household, to the building. Then the quality, then the cost benefits, because there's no control on what kind of appliances you buy with the energy efficient. I mean, apart from the BE rated appliances, the several local appliances which are available. So, you have this cost benefits. And then also India has such huge commitments on net zero by 2070 and adopt a climate friendly, cleaner path. But within these commitments, the entire focus is on gigawatts and big scale solar and renewable projects. The potential of DRE remains underestimated and underutilized. So this is the context within which the findings of the study are to be understood. So as I said, let me just explain. I have a very small presentation of 6 slides, so I'm taking a little bit more time per slide. So, what is it that this, the kind of a weak grid, or the solutions, or the technological options for weak grid we're talking about? The weak grid market has incentivized the industry to come out with what is called a new power system, which is a modern solution to address modern challenges. Now, what is it? It is an integrated digital smart solutions providing extra power, reliable backup, and efficient appliances. Now, typically, what does it contains? And it's a very flexible kind of a system. What on the slide that I'm showing, this system is not something which exists as brand A, brand B, or brand C. This is a concept which exists in different forms. So what we have is a smart power which combines grid electricity rooftop solar with a battery backup, preferably lithium ion, to give 24/7. It could be a DC system, it could be an AC system. It also has a smart hybrid inverter. And then appliances are also a very important part of this entire system. Appliances are modern, state-of-the-art, energy-efficient appliances. Well, as I said, whether they are DC, whether they are AC, they can coexist. Some of them could be DC, some of them could be AC. And then, it is generally because the Internet of Things has entered every aspect of our lives. So it's also IoT enabled. It has digital controls and then inbuilt batteries. So this, by and large, is the concept of a modern power system. Now, what are the potential market segments for this? And this is the new avatar of DRE. So what are the potential market segments? Obviously, rural, urban, semi-urban households in weak grid and off-grid areas, which have a substantial appliance ownership. One is not talking about just bottom of the pyramid, which fortunately does not exist in India in terms of energy access, which are still struggling with just one or two lights, but the households which use appliances. Then the semi-urban, urban households and community buildings which require 24/7 reliable supply, which are public health centers, which are some of the other institutions where most of the, particularly in the context of Northeast, the churches, the community development councils, which host almost every important function of that area, that also requires reliable supply. Then, of course, Kusum C beneficiaries, and now the new Saur program beneficiaries. Then new and yet to be built buildings, which are aspiring to be self-reliant and net zero. The building sector is also up for transformation, net zero buildings. So this system also matches very well with those aspirations. The small gasoline generator users spread in 167 countries, according to a report by World Bank, which I don't have the reference here. If I remember the number correctly, it was some 20 or 30 million small gasoline generators in 2021 itself, the report says, spread in 167 countries. So this is a potential market for those generators. And the latest IEA report, as recent as I think 1 month back, or the latest publication, says that there are still 760 million people without any access to electricity, and several others who are connected to unreliable grids. So this is the potential market segment. What are the opportunities? You can imagine the future buildings, and I'm talking about not the residential buildings so much, but more of commercial buildings, office buildings, integrated IT parks, these kind of buildings, which are aspiring to be energy centers, which basically means that, if they have their smart power systems, then they can, the excess energy, they can also supply to their surroundings. So whether it is nearby buildings or any other marketplace or anything, so buildings themselves become energy centers. Then the Indian regulations are also exploring or allowing some of the new innovative business models. And one of them is peer-to-peer trading. I think, if I'm not wrong, the Saur program also will enable or will allow the peer-to-peer trading, where if I have a solar system, I can also trade. If my neighbor is also serviced by the same DISCOM, then I can trade my excess electricity. Excuse me. I can trade my excess electricity with my neighbor. So that is peer-to-peer trading, which also happens because of the smart power system. It also has, and this was one of the main interests of Gogla, why they commissioned this study in India, because Gogla is very active in Africa, is because it has a potential to unite off-grid and weak-grid consumers in Africa and Asia with a common technology base. So you can imagine the multiplicity or the expansion of the market. If the same smart solution is applicable in off-grid, in weak-grid, customized to Africa and Asia, then it provides benefits to utilities by enhancing consumer satisfaction, improving revenue, and offering ancillary services. If I'm able to generate my own electricity, and if I'm able to trade that electricity with my neighbor, or consume that electricity, then the DISCOMs can save that. The saved electricity, DISCOMs can actually sell it to the high tariff paying consumers, industrial consumers. Then because the reliability increases, discoms also have a better consumer satisfaction and other services. And then, it also has a potential to transform electricity networks into smart grids, which are less carbon intensive, more resilient, decentralized, digital, and financially more viable because, at least the utilization of the grid infrastructure will increase if more and more electricity is flowing through it back and forth. However, sorry, I'm sitting in Delhi, and the Delhi weather always takes its toll around this time on people. So the study explored through extensive nationwide consultations, in-person consultations, because this happened post-COVID, regional consultations, etc. And this was more of a scoping study, the preliminary study to understand the opportunities, barriers, and prepare a roadmap. So I will not discuss the challenges because most of us who have been working in the sector know the challenges very well, but I will instead focus on the solutions or the road mapping. So what study felt that if the weak grid market has to be if its potential of the weak grid market or the potential of the smart power solutions in the weak grid market has to be realized, then the work has to be done on 5 different components. The first one itself is technological innovations. Basically, it means that, standardization, kind of a cost optimization, and talking about focusing on the safety part, focusing also on the aesthetics part, focusing on the ease of use part. Most of the people, even in rural areas, want to have plug-in kind of a smart, modern-looking appliances and not the crude old appliances. So those technological innovations are required. The second vertical or the second component on which one has to focus is partnerships with the discoms, because discoms are the key in this entire weak grid market. Discoms hold the consumers, which are the potential target audience for weak grid market. And therefore, if discoms get convinced about the benefits of smart power solutions in weak grid market, then the scaling up, the expansion, the reach can enhance. Also, equally important is partnerships with the grassroots organizations which are working directly with the people, whether they are rural livelihood missions, whether they are the DRE industry, which are really almost at the last mile. They are the ones who have reached the last mile consumer, and they know what works, what does not work. So these grassroots initiatives and these SRLMs, etc., the industry, the local distribution channels, that is the third vertical, which has to be a part of this exercise to tap into the weak grid market. From the consumer's point of view, yes, because these appliances, this entire system is costly to start with, but eventually, with all these benefits, it's a futuristic market. I must say that it's something, it does not exist in totality today. So the consumer finance is equally important to be able to facilitate the adoption of this from the consumer's point of view. And lastly, the role of government is extremely important. I mean, whether like we see the Sorghar scheme which has been announced today, the kind of impact, the incentives which are provided, whether they are small, big, sufficient or not sufficient is not important. But the fact that, the incentives are available from the state, from the center, whether it is incentive to the manufacturers, whether it is incentives to the consumers, but incentives are very important to trigger the new market. So these were the final findings and the suggestions of the study, and I think that was my last slide. The article provides some more details, but the study itself is available on, I believe, Gogla's website. You can download the study, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really a nice presentation and explanation of the study.
Thank you.
I want to invite all the participants, attendees to ask if they have any question. So they can just unmute or raise their hands and ask the questions or any kind of inputs or suggestions or any kind of input you can just speak up. We also have Praveen sir in the audiences. Sir,
I think I can stop the screen, sharing the screen. I don't think it's required.
Priya ma'am, if you want to give any remark on the on this, so or else we will just move forward with another session.
No, I'm fine, but I'm not able to see if anybody's posting in chat, but I think Praveen. Okay. Praveen, if he wants to add something from Google.
Oh, thanks, Priya. And thanks, Akanksha, for making this presentation talking about our work. I think we did a lot of work. So what you see here is just a gist of it. There's a lot of effort which Akanksha and the team put behind this. I think we just started discussions. It is just warming up. There's time to do lots more on this subject, which we will endeavor to do in the coming months. And we'll hope to work with Clean and others on this initiative. But short and sweet summary. I think I'll just say well done and thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen sir.
Just one point from my side is, going ahead, one option, of course, is that you have battery storage and that works. But hybrid systems is something which has been sort of neglected in this whole weak grid markets. And if you have, let's say, solar wind hybrid, then perhaps the need for storage may be even less. Are there any such example studies?
Let me just see if that slide that I showed had wind also. In the original slide, the option of wind is also there. So as I said, no, it's very conceptual. So this particular study, for the costing purposes, we did not include the small wind, but technically, yes, it should be a part of the solution.
Yeah, small wind, sure, but I think this advantages of hybridizing, bringing several DRE systems together,
Yeah,
it requires more focus than it has got so far, is my
yeah, I completely
feeling.
agree with you. Yes.
Thanks, Akanksha.
Yeah. So can we move forward with another session, another presentation? Yeah. So for the second session, I want to invite Mr. Deepak Mohapatra. He's a senior officer at Alliance for Rural Electrification, ARE. He is an author of a chapter named A Macro Perspective of the Global DRE Ecosystem in the State of DRE Sector Report. So welcome, Mr. Deepak. Floor is yours, and you can just share your screen. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Pallavi, and thank you, everyone. Am I audible enough?
Yes, yes.
All right. Good morning, afternoon, and good evening to everyone who has dialed in from around the world. My name is Deepak Mohapatra. I'm the Senior Officer, Business and Market Development at the Alliance for Rural Electrification. I would like to extend our vote of thanks to CLEAN for inviting us to be present and contribute, first of all, to the SOS report, which was a very comprehensive report in the scene of Indian DRE. And I would like to extend our kudos to all the authors who are here on the panel today, as well as not, for contributing to this very important report as well. I'm trying to share my screen. Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. It says I'm sharing. Is it visible?
No, it's not. You
Okay.
can just
No.
try it once. Yes,
Yes,
now it's
yes.
visible.
It's very, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. I'll make it full screen. All right. Thank you once again. So let's begin. As we are speaking today, well, my job for this particular contribution was to present a macro perspective of the global DRE sector and then extend it or translate it into the Indian scene, creating a parallel and the comparison between. The presenter before me, Ms. Chaurey, has done a commendable work presenting the nitty-gritty of how the different aspects of the DRE sectors are contributing to the overall spectrum in our common goal of energy access. So my congratulations to Ms. Chaurey and the team of COGLA. Then I would bring the macro perspective over here, and here I would like to bring to your kind attention that even in 2024, as we are speaking, we are standing at a benchmark where more than 675 million people around the world are deprived of electricity or any modern forms of energy. And when we flip the coin, we are looking at 1.5 billion people around the world who are deprived of reliable electricity. Because what we mean by that, having access to power, but only for a couple of hours, doesn't mean that you're 100% electrified. And this is, let's say, an overall mandate that ARE, Alliance for Rural Electrification, focuses on as an industry association. So who we are, the Alliance for Rural Electrification is an international and international business association focusing on overall DRE sector, responsible for promoting the sustainable energy services and with renewable energies for 21st centuries in emerging economies. How we do that is by activating different markets for income generation opportunities for affordable energy services and inclusive economies across all major regions where energy access remains as an imminent issue. In terms of how our portfolio looks like, it's in terms of the membership, it contains all different kind of sector stakeholders, starting with investors, manufacturers, technology providers, project developers, EPCs, installers, and last but not the least, the research organizations, academia, and so on. So a full stakeholder list who are part of the ARE's umbrella. In terms of technology types, we are one of the unique organizations which is focusing on all types of renewable energy technologies that are available within the renewable energy value chain, starting with solar, hydro, wind, bioenergy, and also slowly looking towards green hydrogen as it is picking up the pace. And in a couple of years of time, we are predicting that it will play a heavy role in the DRE sector. And in order to also tackle the intermittency issues of renewables, energy storage is the biggest portion of our work, as well as the power components. In terms of solutions and sizes, we are focusing on as small standalone systems ranging to nanogrids, picogrids, microgrids, mini-grids, and beyond towards CNI scale structure and productive use systems with a heavy focus on sector coupling. In terms of regions, as I mentioned, we are focused all over the world, wherever energy access remains as an imminent issue. Speaking of which, Sub-Saharan Africa is our biggest playing field, Asia Pacific, and then Latin America and Caribbean. This is a quick snapshot of our members. We are more than 200 members strong. More than 55 countries are being represented over here and active across 3 continents. In terms of services that we provide to our members, we have segregated them into 4 different service lines, starting with business and market development, capacity building, policy and advocacy, and communications and marketing. And those of you who would like to get to know more about it, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I would be more than happy to extend the information. Now, that was a quick introduction to ARE, and now coming to the subject of our discussion today. So, state of decentralized renewable energy sector globally and then to India. Well, Decentralized renewable energy, it has, as we all know, a very big potential in order to serve the common goal, which is energy access, as well as the clean energy transition overall around the world. And the report that we contributed to, it presents, like it was mentioned, a multifaceted potential of DRE in India through the different inputs that major stakeholders who are part of the authors provided to the report. And ARE has also been instrumental in sharing this report with among its stakeholders to let others who are not from India or who are in our network also learn more about what is going on in India, what are the best practices, what are the lessons learned, and how we can draw examples and lessons from it, as it presents like national level statistics and also maps a number of case studies from the ground. Over here, ARE had the honor to present the overall deployment of DRE in a sector as a whole with a macro perspective. Speaking of which, this world map, it depicts the energy access to electricity as of 2021 based on the survey conducted by the World Bank and the report. And as we can see over here, there are still a lot of countries in different continents who are, let's say, not 100% electrified, or as in, let's say, towards the most extent well developed in terms of access to electricity. India on this scale is doing better. However, there is a lot of room to development, because this global perspective world map presents the access to electricity not only with renewables, but also with all different kinds of energy solutions in that energy mix of the countries. As of 2023, I would like to bring to your perspective that the global decentralized renewable energy scenario has seen a remarkable progress and the widespread adoption, making a transformative phase in the transition towards the sustainable and clean energy future. Across the globe, the countries and communities are increasingly recognizing the benefits of the DRE systems, the solutions and the technological advancements, and the renewable resources, which are playing a pivotal role in this whole paradigm shift that we are talking about towards achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the SDG 7, which is basically, I can be safe to assume that is our common goal with all the people who are sitting in the panel today. Now, what is making these kind of transition happen? What we have identified is, let's say, a four-quadrant aspects or four-quadrant formula over here. The first point would be then the affordability and accessibility. With globalization, we are reaching more and more to the rural and remote communities. With that, they have the potential to enjoy the modern forms of electricity with different kind of renewable energy technologies, which are standalone, which are, sorry, which are isolated but still connected in forms of mesh grids, or it can also happen that at times it is connected to the national grid, which has been extended. What it plays as a role in terms of accessibility is it provides the people to get used to the modern forms of electricity so as to be acquainted themselves with what can be the potential of socioeconomic development once the electricity is there. Income generation, better healthcare, better education, better infrastructure, better agricultural practices, and so on and so forth, that energy renewable energy can unlock for them, which they are used to the traditional forms of practices. Next is technological advancement. As I was speaking about it, renewable energies as a sector has seen a lot of technological shift on the positive scale of it, be it solar, be it hydro, specifically micro hydro, be it wind, specifically now the latest airborne wind technologies. Then bioenergy with biomass gasification, biogas digesters, etc., etc. And also green hydrogen is slowly coming into the space to show its impact as well. In addition to that, the efficiency of renewables with the technological advancement, which is connected positively with the efficiencies, we are seeing a good growth of efficiencies of the renewable energy appliances, as well as the consumer appliances like the LED bulbs, the household equipments like televisions, refrigerators, washing machine, etc., who are coming, which are being developed with more and more efficiency. And one thing the speaker before me, Ms. Chaurey, was pointing out was standardization, which is also something that ARE strongly roots for and supports all the stakeholders who are involved in working in this regard, because standardization ensures the quality of the products or the equipments, which will then ensure the longevity of the appliances or of the solutions, which will then increase the consumer's trust in the development process, and they would have the drive to use it more and more. Last point is the conducive regulatory frameworks that the governments and regions, they are doing an impeccable job by adopting good practices and developing the policies in a way that they are win-win for both private sector who are doing business in terms of electrification, and then the end users who are receiving the electricity as a service. Now, so the global, the latest SMAP report, which is the mini grids for 500 million people, it shows that the mini grids, they or the microgrids, or let's say the decentralized renewable energy solutions as a whole, they have the potential to provide electricity to let's say millions of people by 2030, and with the right policies and about right type of investment, we can let's say provide the right infrastructure, the right frameworks for the development of such DRE systems. Building on that, the latest press release from the World Bank estimates that connecting 490 million people to solar mini-grids would avoid 1.2 billion tons of carbon equivalent emissions. More targeted approaches and actions can scale up these implementation targets only if we have the political goodwill, the right kind of partnerships, and the proper channels and frameworks in order to implement them. In developing countries, DRE, as we all know, has emerged as a game changer in addressing the energy poverty and improving the energy access. Now, these systems are providing clean energy access to schools, like I was mentioning, healthcare facilities, to households, fostering economic development and enhancing the socioeconomic standards of the life in these areas. Now, when it comes to the solar home systems market, I think I would like to quote one of the recent outcomes from Gogla, that it has been identified that 5.2 million solar energy kits were sold in the second half of 2022, and a 20% increase from the first half of the year, and 18% higher than the previous peak in the second half of 2019. Now, these kind of growths are very motivating in order for us to see the growth in a positive scale. However, this is, let's say, more and more efforts are needed to be scaled in order to reach our targets if we want to reach them by 2030, which is our SDG targets. On the other hand, yes, of course, advancement of energy storage technologies have also bolstered the facilities of decentralized renewables. Now, every time we talk about renewables, there is always one person in the room, or more persons in the room would always come with this argument that the sun doesn't shine in the night and the wind doesn't blow always. Well, which is why the energy storage comes to tackle these intermittency issues, so that during the production hours, it can store the excess energy and then use it later when the sun doesn't shine. Which is why the more and more energy storage advancements are helping the renewables, and they are walking hand in hand to provide the energy access and maintain the clean energy transition. Lastly, I would like to also point your focus towards the public-private partnerships, which have turned out to be a very crucial factor for the deployment of decentralized renewable energy projects across the globe, ensuring the collaborative approach to scaling up the clean energy solutions worldwide. One thing, like I was mentioning, however, is to note that the technological and political efforts are required to be increased or scaled to create more space for integration of decentralized renewable energy systems and creating provisions technologically as well as with regulatory frameworks to have the interplay between the existing centralized grid infrastructure, so that we can ensure a seamless interactions between the small-scale renewable energy producers and the grid when it comes to the place. And this is something super important and has been an age-old debate when it comes to present a macro perspective of the overall small-scale DRE systems connected to be or not to be connected with the overall national grid. So I would like to once again reiterate the fact that despite the progress that we have made across all the aspects of energy access, the current pace is not adequate enough. And we need to, let's say, push the pedal even more with more power and with more commitment in order to achieve our 2030 targets. Let's now talk about the Indian scene. So India's decentralized renewable energy sector is taking a long strides, as we all know, towards the development which is contributing to the overall energy access and clean energy transition in the country. Now, what we have identified during our research on the macro perspective, the major factors which were driving this this growth in India were fourfolds. Number one, energy access. Number two, agricultural applications. Number three, innovative business models. And lastly, the technological advancements. In terms of energy access, the DRE plays a crucial role in providing the electricity to the rural and remote areas where the grid extension is geographically and economically challenging. Because of the geographical terrain, it's not always easy to extend the grid lines, the transmission lines, as well as the cost associated with this extension will probably not provide enough returns based on the amount of demand that we have at this remote and rural areas. Therefore, one thing that ARE also focuses on the development is the demand side management as well. Number one, to create provisions for providing access to energy, and number two, to create the demand at the last mile so that the access, when it comes, they can use it, and then the supply and demand can match so that the economics of it would stay intact and make it profitable for the socioeconomic development of that particular area and the region. So one thing I would like to also quote from my previous speaker is the partnerships, the local partnerships and the partnerships with the discoms, they play a huge role in that. Agricultural applications, the solar pumps are widely adopted in agriculture, reducing the reliance on diesel and grid electricity. And we have seen with the good political frameworks that we have, that India has placed, like the Kusum Yojana, etc., etc. When it comes to innovative business models, we are seeing companies are developing many different types of innovative business models for the delivery of energy access as a service, such as PAYGO, so community-based microgrids, energy as a service, and a new innovative model that we are seeing in Africa is mesh grid, which is, even if the village is isolated, they are creating a small mesh grid among themselves in order for the energy access, which in future can also ensure or allow or unlock the provision for peer-to-peer trading. Yeah, so India's ambitious policies, schemes, and incentives have encouraged the private investment and the local participation in the renewable energy projects, fostering the robust ecosystem for DRE solutions. Numerous rural communities now are benefiting from the small-scale renewable energy systems, providing access to electricity and enhancing this livelihood. Last would be the technological advancements. This is something that I have already touched in my previous slide. So it's rightly so that the advancement of storage and renewable technologies have ensured the overall trust in the renewable energy systems adoption as a primary source of the source of energy or electricity or energy for households, and this will just increase. As India continues to invest in this sector, there is enormous potential for further growth, enabling the India to transition towards a greener and more inclusive energy future, as well as fulfilling its commitment to become the net zero by 2070. Furthermore, I would like to draw your attention that there's still a notable disparity in the energy access as the rural households in northern and eastern regions receive still less than 20 hours of off-grid electricity per day, despite their contributions at both national and global levels. The figure that we are looking at over here projects the generation per state and the generation type as of December 2021, even though we see that the adoption of renewables are increasing, but when they are compared to the normal, let's say the fossil fuel-based source, we still have a long way to go. But the commitment is positive, and the sector stakeholders are working towards it. Therefore, as an international organization, ARE has a lot of faith in the DRE system or overall DRE system of India, that it will make huge progress. And with organizations like CLEAN and other sector stakeholders and our partners that we have in India, we are, let's say, keeping our motivation strong to do more action-oriented tasks. My last slide, then what are the, let's say, couple of challenges and opportunities? We'll not go much into the detail of it, but we'll skim on it. So despite the progress, the sector faces multiple challenges. One is access to finance. Second is operation and maintenance. Third is scalability. And fourth is regulatory hurdles. Once ensuring the long-term sustainability of the projects and integrating with existing energy infrastructure are also key issues. Now, all of these I have already touched during my presentation since last 10 minutes, that access to finance remains as an issue, which is why we at ARE, we call upon all the financial stakeholders to also take a look at how different frameworks can be created in order for financing at a local level where it matters the most. Of course, the international funding, the national funding, the budget allocation, and so on can will definitely play a huge role, as they are traditionally. But we need to find more innovative financing, like private stakeholders, banks who are a little bit, let's say, sometimes shying away from renewable energy projects based because of the lack of trust, or because of the lack of knowledge, or because of the lack of good best practices or case studies. Therefore, please do not shy away and take a look at the different perspectives, and we can all see how we can present good provisions so that the end users can also take benefit of access to financing, that is for creating the demand, as well as the private sector companies, they can see the benefits of receiving funds in order to develop the project, which will then provide access to electricity. Opportunities. In terms of opportunities, the sector offers a significant development in terms of the rural upliftment, the development, employment generation. On the other hand, with access to electricity, I mentioned that how small scale income generation opportunities can have the potential to generate, how the opportunity to have long business hours, even after sunset, you don't have to close your shop and go home, but you can have electricity and then continue your business, which will then add more financial power to the family who are business oriented. Reduction of carbon emissions. When we look at the ESG impact, the environmental impacts, with adoption of renewable energies, we will massively be able to reduce the carbon emissions, and thereby reaching our 2015 COP targets of keeping the carbon emission or the global temperature less than 2 degrees Celsius, even to the extent less than up to 1.5 degrees Celsius. DRE as a power infrastructure can always and will always complement the national grid And I would invite also, well, I will take the stage to invite the national policy makers not to think or not to treat small-scale DRE system as rather competitors, but rather collaborators, which can then complement, and it can become bi-directional, technologically speaking. And then at the end of the day, we will be able to provide access to energy to the last mile end users, which is our common goal. Lastly, I would also like to point the partnership between Clean and ARE that was signed in 2022. And with that, we would like to extend our congratulations and kudos to the commendable work that Clean is doing in India by ensuring the adoption of decentralized renewable energies, by taking stock of the development, the impact, and the future steps and the impact that it has to produce, and in order to create a conducive environment for overall clean energy transition in India. Lastly, would like to quickly tease our upcoming Energy Access Investment Forum, which is scheduled on 21st to 23rd of May in 2024 in Lagos, Nigeria. It's the biggest industry and investor event. Clean is one of our supporting partners in this event, and those of you who would like to come or who would like to exhibit can reach out to me and I can provide further information. Thank you so much. Lastly, I would just conclude by saying the future of DRE sector in India is super promising. With continued government support, technological advancement, and growing awareness of sustainable energy solutions, collaboration between the public and private sectors, along with the international partnerships that we have created, it can further accelerate the growth and innovation in the DRE sector. Thank you so much, and I remain at your disposal for any questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Deepak. It was indeed an insightful and detailed presentation. And I think we all agree with the challenges part which you mentioned, because at some point or another, we all faced, used to it to face all these things. And DRE sector is an opportunity for the growth of the country. So now I want to invite the participants to ask any questions on this presentation or giving any input or remarks on this. So you can please raise your hands or write in question and answer section. And also, Priya ma'am, if you want to add something or give some remark on this, so it'd be great.
Hi, thanks, Deepak, and thanks, Pallavi. I think there is a question also in Q&A, but I just was having this thought as I was listening to Deepak. We need to, I mean, from the climate change perspective, across the globe, we need to start moving away from fossil fuels from 2030, which is hardly 6 years away. And here we are now seeing a situation where there is a concern being expressed by the discoms that if suddenly some clusters are going for grid connected DRE, then there is a lot of energy that will be flowing in from these systems, and that is going to create a problem for them. So I think somewhere, I mean, I am talking from a conceptual perspective here. I'm not a technology person, but somewhere it is high time that discoms start prioritizing accepting this green electricity flowing in and proportionately reducing the electricity coming in from coal-based generation, because then that is in a way indirectly, at least for temporarily for some days or some hours, we are going to start reducing coal-fired electricity and increase the renewable component in the electricity generation, which will be the step in the right direction. Because right now what is happening is all the RE capacity that is being created, it is just additional to the coal-fired capacity that we have. We have not been able to replace the coal-fired capacity, but rather than that happening through the large-scale RE, it may happen indirectly through DRE is a thought that I had in mind. Um, so any comments on that, Deepak, from
Yeah,
your
thank
side?
you. Thank you, Priyadarshini ji. Well, my take here would be, if there is a roadblock in accepting the renewable power in the national grid, that roadblock can be divided in two aspects. Number one, first of all, we need to make the regulatory frameworks so that there is an interaction or interplay between DRE and national grid. Number one. Number two is the technological aspect of it. I'm pretty sure it's I think the frequency matching and so on that are needed to be there, which then requires the upgradation of the equipment that the national grid has. And this will then require, of course, the government involvement and the government's goodwill to create the provision, both technologically and with policy-wise, so that this provision can be created. Now, then, what can happen is that with the development of proper upgradation of the equipment, we can facilitate the interaction between the grid and the DRE. Of course, excess power is a luxury problem to have. And if we have the excess power and we are all interconnected, then we will know which part of the infrastructure is receiving less electricity and having power outages. At that point of time, on the other side of the grid, we have peak production or peak usage. That's when we can transfer the power to the place where it is needed. This way, this is why the whole grid the energy infrastructure calls for interconnection, so that the power transfer can be facilitated from the place where it is excess produced or excess stored to the place where it is needed the most. I guess, yeah, then I will boil it down to the two aspects, which is the regulatory as well as technologies. And I'm pretty sure with right kind of partnerships, with right kind of commitment and the involvement from the government, this can be facilitated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Pallavi, over to you.
Yeah. Dr. Utparn Dubey, sir, has wrote two questions. So, sir, can you please just unmute yourself and ask this, or should I read?
I have just, yeah, you can read the questions for me.
Yeah, so for the first comment, this is Dr. Utpan Dubey from Urjagram, India. So he's thanking you for sharing the valuable insights. And then how do we become members of ARE? The first question is this. For the second question, how can we influence the DISCOM for allowing small DRE players to become contributors rather competitive? So Deepak, there is the second question comment as well. So would you like to?
Can I take one by one, please, if it is okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. The first question, how to become a member of ARE. I guess on the screen, you're still looking at my email address. If you can kindly drop me a line, we'll have a bilateral exchange and then we can take it forward from there.
That is so. Thank you so much.
Yes, that's the first question. Second, how to influence DISCOMs.
Yeah. So because your thought process was not to be the competitors, but rather than influence them, the regulators or the government, to work parallelly with us and as a partner. And that is not happening because I have been trying to influence the UP government for last 3 years now, and nothing is happening at that end. They always give us excuse, one or more excuse, and that is where I feel some strong body is required to influence them.
Sure. And in this case, you're putting me in a very difficult position to say anything, and it's a national podium. I would rather refrain, but then again, look at it. I think if we have justifiable comments, so maybe preparing a 1-pager or 2-pager of white paper on, let's say, particularly identifying what are the benefits, what are the strong points, which will then make it possible for such a partnership to happen.
Okay.
And when this happens and when it comes from your end to the DISCOM, and if it can be endorsed by the national level organizations. Maybe perhaps one thing to see here is to get endorsement of your points, of your one pager, of your arguments, or of your let's say rationale behind that. That could be one helpful point. I'm sure then other organization would be able to see the point, and then you can create like a conglomerate, and there having a proper meeting and then making the room understanding the points would then help for sure.
Yeah, so that is what my basically question, the third question was. Have you been able to make any success or inroads in last few years of your existence since ARE has been created? Do we have any examples of that, or we are still trying to influence the MOP or at the national level or at the international level through policy influence or whatever? So if you can throw some light on that.
Sure. We do not directly engage in a national, let's say, how do you call it, national level politics related to the infrastructure, because that is basically not our place to be. However, what we do is we provide recommendations based on the best practices, based on the inputs received, based on our day-to-day work and the research and the advocacy that we do. As a result of which, recently we have developed the Mini Grid Policy Development Guide, which is like a global policy document, which was the second version of it after the first iteration in 2014.
Okay.
Now, what happens here is, in this particular development guide, there is a decision tree. This decision tree talks about, okay, do you have a DRE policy in your country? Yes, no. Then it branches out to multiple facets, multiple different aspects of it. If yes, okay, what do you have and what do you not have? If no, what can you have, what you not have? And I can share the link with you later on. That would be a nice guide to take a look at as well. And you can refer to it from whenever you are framing your discussions. So in terms of, let's say, direct influence or direct engagement with one particular national or nation or so on, it is a bit beyond our, let's say, capacity to do so. However, we always also work with the national partners, the national associations, whenever there is a requirement, when, let's say, the tariff-related discussions, etc., there we also take a active role in. I hope I answered your question, even if it's
you
not
answered the question, but just out of curiosity, I'm asking. Till date, say even till 2021, the DRE and especially the mini grid sector has been considered or has been recommended as a failure. While I've been practicing in DRE sector for past almost like 11 years now, and have been able to create more than 100 mini grids to date in the states of UP and Bihar. But overall, I feel that DRE should be able to contribute back to the grid by integrating it with the current government schemes like net billing or net energy metering on all that, if possible, because it's possible. If you consider a single village on a last mile as a single consumer, then definitely the mini grid is the source, is the independent plant which is creating an infrastructure for both the incoming and as well as outgoing.
Yeah.
So that is where I feel, we need some kind of help and guidance from the big organizations like ARE, and where I feel, yes, definitely the Clean has been working hard. We as a Clean Network platform, we have been trying to push up some our talks and our views and our thinking and thought process shared with you. And definitely that brings me to the first question: how do we align? How do we join ARE, and how do we influence our policies and our government?
Yeah, no, it's a very important point. Thanks for raising it. I mean, of course, this is a point for further interaction. When we will have our exchange, I would be happy to learn more about it, and we can see how we can work together on this aspect, also taking Clean and other stakeholders in confidence, and see how we can proceed forward in creating a pressure group in this aspect. Thank you so much for raising this point, Mr. Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Mohapatra. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I see there is a hand raised by Mr. Praveen. You have a hand raised, if I can ask.
This was actually not a question to you, Deepak, but partly answering what Utpan was asking. So, Ogla is just getting into that. We have just signed up with NTPC School of Business. We're trying to do some work around how to integrate the DRE with what the discoms are doing. So that's exactly the topic that he was asking about, and we are going to start work in the next few days, and it will go on for another 6, 7, 8 months. So hopefully some answers will come out of the work that we do as Gokla.
Thank you, Praveen. That should be helpful to us also. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Rekha ma'am commented on the question, Ms. Rekha Krishnan. So I suppose DRization of agriculture feeders is an example of how discoms can see DRE as a collaborator.
Indeed, yeah. Very important. Yeah.
So anyone else, if anyone wants to ask, so we can take some questions and then move forward.
Rekha ma'am, so can I just have a cross question with Rekha ma'am here? We
Yeah.
can do it separate one-to-one basis also.
No, you can ask.
Yeah, my question is basically, once we're talking about the agriculture, this grid and all that, that is through the schemes which are being implemented through farmers, like through Kusum components and other irrigation components. So that is like one way. Again, whatever the farmer is using his own electricity generated through local installation of solar panels. But whatever feedback is going back to the grid through the components of various components of Kusum is totally, I think there's a gap between that. So that was my thought. Yes, definitely DRE and the integration of DRE with Discom is happening through some examples, but definitely we need, with what I asked to ARE and Mr. Mohapatra, I think that should resolve in the time to come. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Rekha, you
Thank
can
you.
unmute and respond if you want.
Yes, please.
Rekha?
Rekha ma'am?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, I don't think I have a response as such, but it was just a comment from my side that these are models that will take us to becoming a collaborator with the discoms.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's move forward. Thank you, Deepak ji.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much. Yeah,
Thank you.
it was really an interesting session. Thank you. So now for the last session of the day, I want to invite Dr. Vishal Toro. He's head of advocacy and member engagement at CLEAN and a contributor to this report from CLEAN. So he's the author of a chapter and like what to say, the man behind this report from CLEAN. So sir, please take over.
So yeah, I think straight away I will share my screen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So by now this image is now well known. I think Akanksha also showed that. Deepak also showed this image. And yeah, to someone who wants to download it, the QR code is also provided here, and also the web page link. Okay. So I will not spend much time here. I'm just okay. So CLEAN contributed mainly to one chapter. The chapter's theme was Indian DRE sector, tracking progress, traversing challenges. So as the name suggests, it provides an overview of the status, opportunities and challenges in the sector, in the mainly Indian sector, Indian DRE sector. And when someone wants to scan the progress across the DRE sectoral canvas, what are the parameters we look into? So basically, there are several parameters, several buckets, you can say, that we try to track information. And I have listed some of these parameters here. One being project deployments or installations, that is typical, that comes into mind, that what is the number of installations, say solar rooftop installations, biogas installations, cumulatively, pan-India wise, region wise. So that is sort of that information we try to capture to understand the status of the DRE sector. Secondly, important policy and regulations. So what are the current policies by central, by state? What are the incentives being provided? What are the tariffs being provided, etc. Importantly, investments also, that is the information, that is one information set that we try to look into. What are the government schemes that provide subsidy, funding, and also the funding raised by say developers, okay, private developers, funders. Impact creation, that is something, the information which comes either quantitatively or qualitatively as well. So if we look into, say, what are the job creation, number of jobs created in the DRE sector in India, for example, say for the last 1 year. So that's some number that gives some indication. Then emission reduction values based on the energy generated throughout the projects in India. But the aspects like drudgery reduction, productivity enhancement, those are kind of qualitative information that we try to capture through either, say, interactions or case studies or so and so forth. And lastly, technological innovations. So again, with talking to some innovators, the case studies that we compile, reports and articles that published by us or by other agencies. So that we feel gives the overview of the status of the sector. And importantly, it's not because the word here tracking is very important, that it should not give only the information to date, but it should also provide some information that how the sector has progressed over the years. So that tracking, so say number of installations, so biogas installations over last 5 years or so. Okay, number of rooftops, how they progressed over last 5-7 years. So that gives some tracking or progress related aspects in the sector. And that the whole exercise we did for this chapter, that ultimately led into creation of some tracker, DRE tracker come information hub, that we recently published on our website. And besides that, we attempted to comment on the challenges also and the way forward points for the sector based on our interaction, based on our understanding on the sector. I will just quickly go ahead. So the point, the tracker which I was mentioning here, that is a like front view, first page view of that tracker. I will just quickly go through that because somehow we have provided some information or some graphics about this tracker in this chapter, but more information can be assessed actually by going through or navigating through the tracker itself. So I will just quickly go through that one. I hope it will load quickly. Pallavi, can you able to see the screen, tracker screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
okay.
visible.
Okay. So as I mentioned, this is the information that we try to gather, collect, or present through our information hub come tracker. As I mentioned, the data points, status of deployment, policy regulation, investments and funding, impact creation, case studies, and DRE articles. Those are the points, data points we collected, whatever possible was. And some information gathered for all India level, pan-India level, and some like state-wise details have been also captured based on the information available. So if I look at, say, status of deployment, okay, what information we got, and just want to emphasize here, most of the information we got from the open sources, public sources, or from MNRE sources itself. So it is not that we, like, the information is already available, but it is scattered across several reports, several policy briefs, or several other data publications. And we tried to collate, compile together, and present it one tracker in a useful way or user-friendly way, to say. So as I was mentioning about tracking part, like how, as an example here, solar pump installations, how solar pump installations cumulatively took place over the years. That information we got from MNRE and tried to present here in simpler way, in a graphical way. Similarly, for solar street lights, again, the information also available from MNRE annual reports, solar home lighting systems. So this is like number of installations or deployments part. Policy and regulations, we tried to create some compendium of policy and regulations nationwide. Obviously, then it comes some policies published by states also, some policies published by at the center level also, and also about tracking or how policy initiatives took place over for last 5 years or so. We try to put some on a timeline scale, like what are the major policies, okay. One point I need to mention here is that the information at many places is not comprehensive per se. There are a lot of gaps, and it is still work in progress. We say we are trying to populate this tracker with more information. And idea is that this software, this tracker will complement to the information hubs created by some other agencies also. And ultimately, it will be linked to the MNRE website. So that is the idea. So this is about the policy regulations part. Investments, this is the place, this is the area where we actually struggled a lot. There is not much information available. Some information on the funds released by implementing agencies at center level and some state level have been captured, but the funding raised by private developers and other funding that coming in the sector, unfortunately, that information we could not gather, at least for time being. Impact creation, that is, we could not get. As I mentioned, we are in process of collecting more case studies or also getting information on the job creation, like parameters, for example. And in coming months or so, we hope to put that information in this place also. Case studies, we listed already some case studies based on our previous publications also. And that will be updated as we go forward. So there are a lot of things already you can toggle through and just go through that one. Similarly, for state-wise also, some information on, for example, status of deployment in Chhattisgarh. That what we obtained from the state nodal agency there. But here is also challenge that CREDA in that way, a very, they have updated their data, but there are several agencies, state nodal agencies to whom we contacted. They didn't have updated information on this installation part. So this is just a quick tour of tracker that I was mentioning. Going back to presentation again. So what is like based on while we do the exercise of understanding the status of DRE sector in India, and when we try to look for different verticals, say installations, policy regulations, investments, impact creation, based on data availability, we try to make some matrix which gives information that what sort of data is readily available, comprehensively available, and which data is not available and what efforts need to be done for that one, which will give a more comprehensive picture on the status of the sector. So as you see, installations, type, capacity, trends, they are fairly available. But how many installations are working, whether these units are working or they are defunct, That sort of information even state nodal agencies don't have. So that is one of the challenges that we face when we did this exercise. Looking at, say, aspects like impact creation. Again, I mentioned earlier that the job numbers, how many jobs have created in the sector, that information is very hard to come by. Again, how many number of new units have been created, that is also not available readily. Forget about GHG emission reduction and the qualitative aspects like treasury reduction or empowerment of women and productivity enhancement. This is a very difficult domain, and a lot of efforts needs to be done at, say, at the organizations like Clean also, and also at the organization, government organizations also, to facilitate this sort of information. Going forward, as Deepak already mentioned, the challenges that we face, typical challenges in the sector that we feel, that is our perception, and many points are similar that Deepak already mentioned here. Unlocking finance, yes, that is one of the major challenges. Unlocking finance to end users as well as DRE developers is the major concern. And much efforts needs to be done in this way. So like tapping funding or collaborating with private funding institutions, that is one of the ways to go to tap this finance part. Convergence among government agencies, yes, we worked in several states, and based on our information, we feel that many bodies, they work in silos, and already they have very facilitated scheme implementing or integrating DRE in their domain, but there is no unified efforts or not really a push for DRE in those areas. And for that, a convergence among government agencies and bringing together all these agencies together for pushing DRE or integrating DRE across the sectors, that is the need of the hour that we feel. DRE applications involving thermal needs. Like when we talk about DRE applications, the one notion is DRE means solar PV in many areas. So mainly because it's just plug and play model that they give, but it's not so. And also for thermal needs, there are many times the thermal needs applications for domestic use have been considered, household applications, but there are also thermal needs for non-domestic, non-household applications are also there, which can be catered by DRE technologies. Those technologies needs to be looked into. Data availability, I already described in detail, so I will not be iterating now. Gender in DRE, that is something that area has got some momentum over last couple of years or so, and it needs some enabling policies, training, skills, capacity developments of women that is required. Enabling policies, for example, last year's UP's policy, which gives 90% subsidy for women solar entrepreneurs in food processing units. That is a very landmark example that how this aspect can be pushed in the DRE sector. And lastly, O&M related issues. As you know, as I already mentioned, there are several units have been installed, but how many are there working or not? And in that way, maintaining those units is really takes important stage here. And operation and maintenance related infrastructure or enabling facilities needs to be developed. That's what we feel, these points that we highlighted in our chapter. As I mentioned, we tried to focus, we took some case studies, innovative applications of DRE, and we presented in our chapter there. And I'm sure there are a lot of many innovative applications are there, but over the years, we will be putting and projecting them and publicizing them as well. As you see here, biomass briquettes application for cremation done by Punjab Renewable Energy Private Limited. That is a very novel applications, and there now this business model has taken a lot of momentum for last few years. Smokeless chula developed by EcoSense, that is another example. As earlier we described small wind and solar hybrid systems in Jammu and Kashmir, which is this project was installed by Wish Energy. These are all our members actually, and we tried to provide a small information about their application. And obviously solar pump installations by Utpanji's firm, Urjagram. So these overall, we tried to cover all these aspects, details, data points, and some case studies, and some tracker related details have been covered. So I request everyone to please go through the publication and please feel free to provide your suggestions and yeah, way forward points for us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal. Praveen sir has commented on question answer section. So if you
Yes.
can,
I will just.
should I read this? He has written, thanks for the excellent webinar. Okay, so it's a webinar appreciation. Need to keep doing these, and we will send suggestions also on the topic. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Any questions? If there are any questions for Vishal and this presentation, so please just raise your hands. I don't think there are any questions. Priya ma'am, any remarks or any comment on this?
So just to add to what Vishal was saying, we will be doing, of course, the next state of the sector report, focusing this time on the connection between DRE and climate change. And there will also be a state of the productive use of renewable energy sector. That report will be done in collaboration with Gogla. So there are these two reports that we will be coming out with in the next 1 year or so. That's the plan. But I would invite everyone to please do download the state of sector report, and please send in your suggestions, comments on all the articles. This was sort of a short glimpses of what you will find in the report.
Yeah. To all of these, when I sent an email for inviting for this webinar, I also attached SOS report for the reference. So beforehand, before the webinar, everyone should have a glimpse over it. So I trust everyone have the copy of SOS report by now. So
so please circulate it among your networks also. Either the report directly or its link.
Right. So let's, ma'am, thank you remark, or should I?
Yeah, that's it from my side.
So thank you so much everyone for joining in, and all the panelists for investing time and giving such a good presentation and informations regarding your work and your input in the report. So thank you so much.
Pallavi, before
Yes.
closing, if all the speakers can share, I mean, open the video, we can take a snapshot.
I was just taking it.
Yeah. Deepak.
Just a minute. Okay, I also start the video.
Can we get the picture, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be sharing the recording also in a few days.
Yes, we will put it on our YouTube channel, and also we'll share it personally with all the panelists. whenever we'll be ready with the edited and final version of this, maybe by next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.